Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap.
Here.
Commissioner Walde.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Here.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez.
Here.
And Chair.
Yes.
We have everyone here.
I have the
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I need a notice? Notice of the meeting was given in the following manner. Notice of the meeting was transmitted to the Home Tribune. Said notice of the meeting and a copy of the agenda were filed with the Office of City Clerk on January 16, 2020. And said notice of the meeting and a copy of the agenda were promptly posted on the announcement board in the lobby of City Hall, 78 Mayor Street, at least 48 hours prior to the convening of this meeting. You got the December meeting minutes, Chair?
Can I have a motion to accept December meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, John?
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap.
Yes.
Commissioner Walde.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Commissioner Caldwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Shall I go into the agenda?
Yes, please, John.
So resolution number 1 is that acting as redevelopment authority, resolution approving redevelopment agreement between redevelopment agency and Somerset Urban Renewal LLC, CUR or redeveloper, and approving guarantee agreement with AST Development Corporation for the construction of a multi-story medical office building in the French Street Prospect redevelopment area. I need a motion in a second, and we have John Hoffman, special counsel here.
I'll move. Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll just give you the concept plan that was presented last time, so you can take a look at it.
Thanks, I'm sorry.
Want to start down the end?
Yes.
So this, just John, I'm sorry, real quick, the agreement was part of the package, and then the concept plans were actually sent out in the previous meeting. This is just the version that.
Just a version, just so you have it.
Just so you have it too for record.
If you may remember, in December, we passed a resolution appointing AST or an affiliate urban renewal entity as the redeveloper for lot 105 and lot 28 to construct a multi-story medical building consisting of about 228,000 square feet. And you also approved the concept plan. The concept plan was there. It's behind the Plum Street garage. If you are aware of it, there's a surface parking lot there. The building's going to be built there. And it's also going to overhang Plum Street and connect with buildings which are across on Plum Street, which are hospital-related buildings. The resolution approving them as a redeveloper was conditioned on a redevelopment agreement within 120 days, and that we're back here within 30 days. The agreement you have before you does the following. Number 1, the developer represents he owns the property, which he does. He agrees to reimburse the authority for its administrative fee of $10,000, to establish a $15,000 escrow to cover all costs. It's with Somerset Urban Renewal LLC, which was set up by AST, but AST, which is the developer, which has the assets, also has a guarantee agreement, which we're approving tonight. That guarantee agreement guarantees all the obligations of the urban renewal entity. And the reason it's urban renewal entity is in order for the city to give them tax abatement if they want to give them tax abatement. It requires the redeveloper to pay the redevelopment fee assessed by the city ordinance. It requires them to get all governmental approvals, site plan, building permits, and the approvals have to be consistent with the concept plan. If there's any major changes, they have to come back here and have your approval of the concept plan. They're supposed to begin construction by September of 2020 and be substantially complete by September 30, 2022. They can apply for an extension if there's a force majeure or some other reasonable cause. They have the usual builder's risk, indemnity insurance, workers' compensation, general liability. The additional insured are both the housing authority and the city. They also, the redeveloper and the guarantor guarantee and indemnify the housing authority and the city for any lawsuits or any damages or any expenses of any kind. The project is anticipated to cost $160 million, of which the developer is putting up $40 million in equity, and that's a $120 million loan commitment. He agrees to not discriminate based upon age, sex, color, and in any lease will not discriminate. Also agrees he has to build within the redevelopment plan, and these agreements are good for 30 years, except the discrimination is good forever. We will have a separate covenant that he will sign the housing authority, that will get recorded, that will record all these covenants. He also has the, he will not transfer the project or assign it to anybody without your consent, except if he needs a mortgage or utility leases, or if he's leasing some of the property. If he wants to, the idea is, he's not here to speculate, he's supposed to build. If he's not gonna do it, transfers, he has to come back here and present you with another developer with comparable skills and comparable finances. It also provides that he can get a mortgage, and that the mortgage has protection, so that if he ever defaults on the mortgage, they can come in, although they can come in and take over the property, they can't build on it or complete the project unless they come here and get your consent. The default clause is if they don't complete within the time they said they're gonna complete, or they violate any of the representations they made, they don't pay their taxes, they don't, they try to transfer without your consent, all of those are defaults. If you get noticed, you can then terminate them as a redeveloper. It's, the agreement's governed by the laws of the state of New Jersey. The separate guarantee agreement has AST, which is the entity that came before you, which has the assets guaranteeing all of the obligations of the urban redevelopment, including all the payment obligations, the insurance, or all the indemnity. So I think the housing authority is well protected by the agreement.
Oh, want to talk to him?
Who's vice chair to take over?
Somebody can be.
You vice chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask you any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions?
Yeah.
If you have any questions,
Go ahead.
How should we develop it now? You know, because this has been on, been coming here several times.
well, we de-designated them, they came to build something else once they did this, they seem to have
Yes.
spent an awful lot of money.
Oh,
So I think that, you know, they say that they're gonna, you know, and they are leasing the properties to the medical school, which is Rutgers, and also Robert Johnson Hospital. And I think they're already, they own the property, it's just an empty lot that's there.
so they already have guarantee from the medical school and Rutgers?
I don't know that, in their application,
Is
they
that
said-
right? Okay.
they said that they would be, and that the concept plan shows it connecting, so I assume it is.
Questions? I have a question.
Wally, you have a question?
Yeah, the question is, anybody else has
Anybody else
questions?
have a question on the board? Chuck, can I have a roll call?
Was it public questions or?
Hold
Yeah,
on,
Mark.
somebody's got their hand up in the back.
Sorry, public.
Good evening, members of the board. Charles Prattville, New Brunswick today. I wanted to follow up on the discussion from the last meeting. I know we were kind of in the heat of the moment there, but I did want to clarify with the chair if you know Mr. DeAnton, the developer.
No, it's comment. There's no questions for the board. You can make a comment.
He knows better. It's comment time.
Really, you never answer questions when people come to this podium?
Here we go.
Okay. I guess the
Your minute's away.
Well, I guess the new chair
Go.
doesn't like to answer questions, especially when they're about potential conflicts of interest, but in that case, I'll just speak on the conflicts of interest. Maybe Mr. Hoffman can enlighten us. When, at the last meeting, he was not present. He said there was a conflict, not a conflict of interest, but a conflict with another meeting. Can he tell us what meeting he was at?
It's up to you.
Mr. Chair,
You don't have to.
I have some, also have a personal life.
Yeah.
There's some things that I would rather not have to reveal who I was. I just unfortunately couldn't make it. As you know, for the last 25 years, John, I've represented, I've been here as many meetings as I can be. Occasionally, like we all have conflicts, I have a conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just trying to confirm what it was, but that's okay. On the topic of conflicts of interest, isn't it true that Mr. Hoffman is on the board of directors for Robert Wood Johnson?
We brought that up
I think we
last
went over
time.
this last
We went-
meeting, it doesn't have to
same
be
stuff
part
we
again,
brought up
it's,
last
he
time.
doesn't even have to comment on it.
you know,
All
so.
right, well, I
I'll just keep.
don't believe that I brought it up at the last meeting,
No,
again,
it wasn't
because
the
he
last meeting,
wasn't
it was the
here.
meeting before, because he wasn't here, but the point was.
The one where you
made
appointed
me-
him, I did bring it
you-
up there,
you
and I
suggested-
cautioned you not to,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
yeah, so now
that's
this
it.
is where the conflict is actually starting to matter, because, you know, Mr. Hoffman says he participated in the application, and the letter I have here, on page 2 from Mr. Kelso, attached to the application is a reference letter for AST from Provident Bank, blah, blah, blah. To further supplement the application, please be advised of the following information. Number 1, the redeveloper will develop this project with the intent to enter into a master lease with Robert Wood Johnson Hospital, RWJ, for their occupancy of the building. So, I was at Robert Wood's annual meeting. I believe Mr. Hoffman is on the board of Robert Wood Johnson Hospital. Am I incorrect? Or is he on the board of the hospital that's going to lease this entire building?
I am on the board of the hospital. The negotiation is with AST, the developer. All the obligations are on the developer. There's none on Robert Wood Johnson. I have nothing to do with Robert Wood Johnson, the lease, and I will just tell the housing authority that if it ever comes before Robert Wood, I'll recluse myself, just in deference to the fact that I've represented you for years, but I know nothing about it, and there's no obligations here on Robert Wood at all. It's all the obligations of the developer. If he defaults, the developer, that's who the housing authority would go after.
Okay, I just think it looks bad if your attorney is on the board of the entity that's gonna run this building for whatever period of time, 30 years, or, you know, it's a master lease for the entire building. So it's not like they're, you know, just renting one unit here. They've committed, and the attorney for the applicant has put in writing that Robert Wood's gonna be the operator of the building. They're gonna lease it, they're gonna lease the whole thing. And to have an attorney who's on the board of Robert Wood, you know, leads to potential for the board to not have an independent representative, right? I think, in this case, Mr. Hoffman should have recused himself from this matter.
Thank you for your comment.
And are there also board members who work for Robert Wood Johnson?
I don't know.
Okay, well, speak now or forever hold your peace. I think that, you know, folks that are involved in Robert Wood Johnson should be recusing themselves from these kinds of matters. You know, considering the fact that Robert Wood Johnson is pushing this development, right? They're the ones who promised to lease, so.
Comment time, and I appreciate it, it's duly noted, and, you know.
Okay, and again, just to be clear, you refuse to disclose what your relationship to the developer is.
Wow.
I mean, you can disclose it if you like,
Right, yeah, there you go.
but you're gonna decline to.
It's been 5 minutes?
Yes, it is.
About now?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Okay.
there you go, Charles.
Shady.
Wonderful
Very-
job.
Thank you, very shady.
Chair, you have a motion and a second. Shall I hold board?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap?
Yes.
Commissioner Walde?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez?
Abstain.
Chair, you gonna accept that?
Yes.
Commissioner Giorgiani?
Abstain.
You gonna accept, obviously, you
Sure.
want an abstention. Okay. All right. Shall I go on?
Yes, please.
All right.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
John.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your night. Oh, here, sorry.
Yeah, we have copies already. Thank you. Thanks, John, appreciate it. Resolution number 2 is a resolution auzing and approving the payment of bills for the month of December 2019.
Who second, please?
Caldwell?
Aldi second.
Ready?
Yes, can we have a?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap?
Yes.
Commissioner Walde?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez?
Yes.
And Chair.
Yes.
7-0. Resolution number 3 is a resolution approving the purchase of security camera equipment for the AMP1 property from Grangers through New Jersey State Contract 19-Fleet 00566 in the amount of $60,000.
Can I have a motion, please? Move. I'll second.
I'm sorry, Walde moved?
Yes, and I'll second.
So Chair, as you know, we had 3 stages of our security camera upgrades. This is the
Right.
final stage. This is equipment purchasing through the state contract, and this will complete the 3rd phase of our upgrades to the cameras and the security systems.
Very good.
And I have a question.
I have a question here.
And these are both sites over here and over at Riverside?
Correct.
As well too? Okay.
Correct, yeah. Well, this is all considered AMP1, so
Yeah,
both sides of the
I'm
street. Yep. Ready?
Sure.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap?
Yes.
Commissioner Walde?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez?
Yes.
And Chair.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Resolution number 4 is a resolution appointing John Clark as Public Agency Compliance Officer for the Housing Authority of the City of New Brunswick.
So move.
I'll second.
Chair, as you know, annually, the state requires that you do this appointment. I've been the officer since Ms. Wilbon passed away, and I'm going to continue to serve in that capacity. Once this is done, we're required to submit it to the state, and then we'll have to do it again next year. It just basically gives one person the title and the responsibility when the state goes into compliance reviews or has questions, they'll contact me.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap?
Yes.
Commissioner Walde?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez?
Yes.
And Chair.
Yes. Sorry.
That's all I had. My report will stand, and hope everybody had a great holiday.
How did the Christmas?
Christmas event went well. I sent out summary to everyone, as you saw, we got everything out. We are going through a bit of a cold spell right now, as you know. We do have a code blue in effect. Those of you may not know, we are a code blue site. So for overflow, we have not had to use it yet,
No.
right? So we've been lucky, but in the past, we have been used before where we will bring an overflow site, which means basically they'll bring people here for the night, and we come back and make sure that they're safe and secure.
Great.
So, but other than that, we're just chugging along and keeping everything moving. We have not heard from HUD yet on the final determinations for the proration amounts. Those of you know, we didn't have a government shutdown on December 23rd, but we did get an omnibus, they call it a mini omnibus, where there was a budget signed through the period of September 30th of 2020. We do not have the full proration yet, meaning that HUD is funding us at the previous levels, and then what they'll do in February is probably catch us up with some sort of proration. But the funding levels are relatively the same, still nowhere near what we need to make all of the improvements that we have to make. So we're going to continue doing the best we can with what we have. And other than that, my report is set.
Thank you. Anything from the board? Comments from the public? Comment? Please.
Good evening once again, Charles Prattville, New Brunswick Today. I just want to say I do think that public meetings work best when there's a dialogue between the public and the board. And so I encourage you to reconsider your approach to, not answering questions. I think there's usually somebody in the room who has the answer, and rather than, letting silence be your answer, I think it's best to do your best to answer the questions and just show that you're trying. So do want to ask about a couple of matters that have been stagnant. The Jack Morris plan for Fulton Square 2. This board adopted a resolution on September 20th, extending their time frame to come up with a redevelopment agreement to Christmas Eve. And as far as I can see from your agendas, there is no redevelopment agreement. Can you tell me, is the board going to take any action to move this along, or maybe select a different redeveloper? What's the holdup?
Chair, I can answer. So that extension lasted through the December, I think it was 23rd.
24th.
What happens at this point basically is that plan is abandoned. We no longer accept that, and if the developer or the redeveloper wants to come back, they'd have to come back before the board to ask to be designated again.
Okay, so they're no longer designated.
Correct.
Great, and they'd have to pay the fees again too.
No, so the fees actually, because when they originally applied, if you recall, these were extensions.
Yes.
And it goes back some time. So we didn't start collecting the fees on the original application until the summer. So they had originally applied prior to that, so they have not paid that fee yet. Now, when they apply, they'll have to pay that fee. So at the time of this application, they'd have to pay that.
It'll have to be a new one, not an extension.
Correct, it would be a
From
new
scratch.
designation as developer, and therefore it would be a fee for that designation.
Thank you for the answer, it's good to know. The other one I want to follow up on is this site that was once the Votech School on Easton Avenue. I think 260 Easton's the address. It's, I believe it was the first Votech in the United States of America. And so it's kind of a shame that it closed, it's kind of a shame that it was sold. It sold to a private developer, wasn't able to make a project work there, and so then St. Peter's Hospital acquired the site, I believe on October 29th, 2012, and since then it's been kicking the can down the road. I believe the demolition was supposed to be completed within a year of that, October 29, 2013, and so in 2014 you gave them another 18-month extension, 2015 another 18-month extension, 2016 looks like a 1 year, or maybe a 13-month extension. 2017, they got another extension, and then I recall being here, I didn't catch the whole meeting, but I did catch up with them on the way out when they got their most recent extension. That was September 19th of 2018, and it extended the deadline for demolition and construction deadlines through October 29th of 2019. So they've obviously missed that. The building's still there. There's been really no sign of any progress there. And I haven't seen them on a board agenda or showing up here like they typically do on a yearly basis. Can you tell me, is that abandoned as well? Is that, or what's the deal with that site?
Your Chair, if you recall, we actually did receive some correspondence about this. They were going through some architectural and engineering things. So I don't have that information with me because it's not on the agenda side, but I can find out and get back to you on that.
If you could follow up with me, I very much appreciate it. That's all I have for you tonight, and thank you for your time.
Can I have a motion, any other questions or anything, to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap?
Yes.
Commissioner Walde?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Medina Hernandez?
Yes.
And Chair?
Yes.
And you got 7:06. 6 p.m. Chair, I need signatures.